Okay. Hey folks, we've been working on interpreting graphs in class, interpreting the graphs of linear functions, and so I thought it would be beneficial to do just a cute little example using pumpkins because it's October, and talking about 4 different questions you could get when interpreting a linear function on a graph, because we're going to be working on these a lot in class, and we've got a quiz on it later this week. So let's just get straight into it. If you would like the opportunity to pause this video, I would highly encourage you to take it and try each of these 4 problems on your own using your notes if you have them. If not, we're just gonna do them together, starting now. So the first problem asks me to interpret my y-intercept. So the first thing I need to do is take a look at this graph and say, where is my y-intercept? This is my x-axis, this is my y-axis, right? intercept means where my y-axis touches my function. That's right here, at 2. So if I'm interpreting my y-intercept, first I need to identify that my y-intercept is this point. This point has an x value of 3, 2, 1, 0, and it has a y value of positive 2. So my y-intercept is the point 0, 2. To interpret this means to write a sentence about it in the context of my graph. On my graph, if I look at my x-axis, I can see that x is measured in months since May. And I can see that my y-axis, if I look over here, y is my axis that goes up and down, is measured in weight in pounds. So if I want to actually take a look at this, really all the information I need is here. This graph talks about a pumpkin's weight over time, and this says 0 months since May. So in the month of May, my pumpkin has a weight of 2 pounds. Or the pumpkin, I don't own this pumpkin. What's Miss J doing? Straightforward. If I want to interpret an intercept, I identify what the intercept is, I take a look at what my x and y values of my axis are, and then I write a sentence using that information. What about, this one? Interpret the slope. Hey folks, so if I want to interpret the slope of this graph that's talking about pumpkin weight over time, really all I need to do is find my slope, and then I need to take a look at my x and my y axes and kind of interpret what my slope means in those values. So slope, if you're not aware, is a rate of change. It tells me how to get from one point to another on my graph, and it relates units, whatever my units for my y-axis are and whatever the units for my x-axis are. So if I'm looking at this graph and I want to find my change in y, I really just need to pick 2 points that I can find change in y for. So I'm going to select this point here. At this point, my x value is 3, 2, 1, 0. And my y value is positive 2. At my next point, I'm going to pick this point here. My x value is positive 4. And my y value, I'm going to go up to my y-axis, 2, 4, 6, 8. It's positive 8, approximately. And so if I want to find my slope using these 2 points, all I'm going to do is subtract my values. Oof. Okay, so my y value right here, 8 minus 2, is going to be determined by subtracting the y values of these points. And my change in x, my x value, is going to be determined by subtracting these 2 points. So I get 6 over 4. Well, I can reduce that fraction. Both of these have 2 divide out. to get 3 over 2. So the slope of this function is 3 over 2. Good job finding slope if you're here, but it asked me to interpret the slope. So it's not enough to just find what this number is. You got to tell me what this number means in the context of this graph. So remember, we said that 3 represents change in y. Well, if I look at my y-axis, the axis that goes up and down, my y-axis measures weight of the pumpkin in pounds. And my x-axis, if I take a look over here, right here, measures months since May. So if I'm looking at this change in y over change in x, it's very clear to me that, hey, since this is my y values and my y-axis is looking at weight, then this 3 represents a positive 3 change in the weight of the pumpkin. So the pumpkin's weights increases because when we're talking about slope, we're talking about change. So if it's positive 3, that means it's going up 3. That means my weight has gone up 3. It's increased 3 pounds every. And then I take a look at this and I say, well, 2, change in x, talks about months. So it's 3 pounds every 2 months. And that's pretty much it. An alternative interpretation might have been that if you were a student, you could have said, hey, if slope equals 3/2, well, that's the same as 1.5. And so you might say, hey, 1.5 over 1 is still a slope. It's still change in y over change in x, and gotten a different answer. Your answer is the same at its core, though. So when you look at this problem, you would have said the weight is 1.5, your change in weight, and your change in months is 1. And so for this student, their problem would look a little different, or the answer to their problem. They would say the pumpkin's weight increases because it's a positive 1.5. every month. Both of these are the same answer. So I don't actually care which one you give. Interpreting slope in a nutshell. Let me know if you have questions.